Guess who's back? Back again. Nikki's back. I don't know if you want to tell a friend, but I'm back. Yeah. It's been busy as hell. Busy as hell, eventful as hell. And obviously from an interpersonal perspective, from a real life perspective, but also in like a pop culture news about people who I don't know in real life perspective too. We gonna talk about my school woes. We gonna talk about um wrestling fandom and tribalism with promotions, and of course the Cena retirement match and the Saturday night's main event programming and the fuck Triple H of it all. And we're gonna talk about how Rob Reiner and Carlton died the day after Dick Van Dyke turned 100 years old. How's that for life being fucking crazy? We'll start with me personally. It was just busy as hell. Like, sometimes I would have a lot to say, and I would sit down and try to record something, and I just couldn't come off coherently, like in a way that's pleasant, in a way that is worth listening to, in a way that I would even want to edit. Other times, I feel like I was sounding good, but I didn't have no energy to make a cute little thumbnail or anything. Just, it's been a lot. And again, like, this is a work in progress. Um, it's an audio diary, and it's also teaching me what I like and do not like about video production, about just making something. Because as we're moving through this, I really want to form more of an identity with this project. Like, I want to change some of the aesthetics, that kind of thing. Like, we making strides. We are making strides. And as usual, those of y'all who've tuned in, who've joined in the little mini hiatus, thank you so much for, sticking with me, for checking things out. And, this is fun. It's fun to do. It's a fun outlet. And as always, feel free to sound off about anything that I talk about in these things in the comments. People who've been leaving these little comments and anecdotes, I love you to death, literally. Yeah. So we're gonna talk. Okay, I said all that shit. I mention that part of what I was busy with was school. School is gonna end for me, my program, spring, like February, March-ish, right? So, but me doing well in that last term, I gotta set myself up for success with this term I'm in right now. It's been so fucking difficult. I don't remember if last time I did an episode I mentioned that I'm in a poetry course. Poetry is so hard to write. And then the other one I'm in is a publishing class where I gotta fucking build a website. And even using a WYSIWYG engine for my freaking not programming self, it's still a lot of work to edit all that junk. So that's where I've been with school. And then also because in October, we finally finished all of our repairs for that flooding that happened in August. It's really only been the last 2-3 weeks I've been sleeping in a bed again and just allowing my spine to lengthen, and all the damage that I did having to sleep on floors and couches because of the flooding is just slowly being undone. My God. So yeah, that's where we're at. We thank God. We thank God I still had a roof to sleep under throughout all of that. So to move on to Cena's retirement, because of course Nikki got to make everything about wrestling. Those classes I was just talking about, it was 1 week where all the units in publishing website class and all the units in poetry class, I found a way to make everything about wrestling. Oh, I found a way. I think I wrote like 2 poems about wrestling. one of which was inspired by me rewatching SummerSlam 2002, the unsanctioned street fight with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. And then the other class, I had to do something like a mini essay about marketing, like find a platform that's not about writing, because of course I'm a writing major. Find a platform that's not about writing or publishing or whatever, see how they market to their audience and just analyze it. So I had been on TNA O'Clock that week, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, and I was trying out the Total Nonstop Action Plus app, which is basically Netflix for that company. Um, and I just did a whole write up explaining the benefits of using that to watch old wrestling versus trying to pull up the matches on YouTube versus trying to watch WWE through Peacock versus watching any of this stuff back in the cable days. So, um, anyway, we need to get back on track, which is I started talking about all that to say that, of course, I watched Cena's retirement. Now, Cena, I knew who Cena was through pop culture zeitgeist osmosis growing up, being on the periphery of wrestling fandom, but I didn't engage with him as a wrestler until this year when I actually started watching the fucking product for real, for real. Same thing with people like The Rock. The Rock, I knew so many things about him as an actor. I remember when he premiered on Hannah Montana back in '06, all these things, but I never actually saw any of his in-ring work until this year. So very emotional just on that level for me as someone who's not really a Cena fan, but appreciates the position he's been in. But and I know there's so much discourse about how the finish of the match went. Um, I'm sure anyone who's listening to this has watched it already if they wanted to watch it or just cares about wrestling as it pertains to like my views on it, right? So John Cena's basically the pay-per-view he was on, it was in another edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. It starts off with this Nigerian wrestler, Obafemi, who, oh my God, like as a Nigerian myself, he makes me so excited. He's like a few years younger than me. He's heading off with Cody Rhodes, one of the top guys in the company. Very decorated. Cody Rhodes comes from a wrestling family, whereas Obafemi, I think, is a first generation wrestler, straight from, Nigeria, from Lagos. At least he's billed from Lagos anyway. Um, their match went weird because they engaged really nicely, but then the finish was a cop out. They kind of had this thing where neither one of them pinned the other. So people were disappointed. Then we go on to a women's match that was satisfying to me and to many other people. The star of the show to me was Sol Ruka, who is newer to the company. She joined around when Obafemi did. And she's one of these high flyers, like a gymnast type. She has a freaking beach babe aesthetic. She's so gorgeous, man. I just loved how she played off the veteran, Bailey. Then there was a really dynamic tag match featuring like some people that I've seen on TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. There were some other things that happened. Then we ended with John Cena's match, where Cena was against the Austrian wrestler Gunther. So they're going at it. Even me as someone who's still relatively new, only like 8 months into watching wrestling heavy, it was an enjoyable match, but it was not really that great. And then the finish, people were disappointed because John Cena ended up tapping out. He was made to submit. And there's people who are like, John Cena's whole thing is he never quits. And then there's people who is like, well, I get that maybe he wasn't going to retire with the championship because they don't always do that with people, but he shouldn't have tapped out. He should have been pinned or something. Just there's people arguing about the storyline. Me, as someone who has the history with Cena that I do, sort of like an outsider, but not really, I didn't find it disappointing. I knew that Gunther was going to go over either way, right? Or Gunther. I'm sorry. I don't know if we're supposed to say Gunther or Gunther, but Because Americans be saying Gunther. But I knew Cena's opponent was finna go over just based on how these storylines were set up. But people was just so mad to the point that so I was watching through Peacock broadcast earlier in the match because Gunther, he's a heel, he's a bad guy. So people were playfully chanting, fuck you, Gunther, and they were cutting out fuck you. It was being censored. But then at the end, when Cena loses, then Cena's going over to hug Triple H, which is, what is his official title? Is he head of creative or whatever? He's one of the top dogs, former wrestler for the company, right? He's fucking 50 something like Cena. So they're hugging, and then as they're hugging, then the crowd's chanting, you fucked up, and fuck Triple H, fuck Triple H. That shit was not censored. So, and it's not like they were showing this on TV and like, I don't like, however they do the bleeping, I don't think the person's finger slipped. Somebody up there don't like Triple H either. Now, and that fed into all these things. Like any kind of wrestling news is talking about how a lot of people are disappointed with it. They don't like how that finish went with Cena. Me, again, I didn't feel like it was a fuck you moment. To me, I didn't feel like it was they disrespected his legacy moment. But that's me. Tangential is just the tribalism in general with wrestling, because you see how all that happened. Feel however way you want to feel about that WWE package, that pay-per-view package. Then you have people who are AEW folks, like All Elite Wrestling Company fans, which is a competing promotion. It's one that I enjoy too. But the thing with it is that they have an indie sensibility, but they're not an indie promotion. So the way people talk about it, they act as though watching that one is praxis or something. But it's like, it's another one that's run by really, really rich people. Yeah, they do a lot of things better, but there's also things that you could argue are self-indulgent to a fault. So just when I see people, you go in the tags for anything on social media talking about WWE news, especially the Cena thing, and you see people being shady, not in like, oh, I think they disrespected this veteran, or, oh, that was kind of lackluster, but they just do this, oh, that was garbage. How are you even watching that? Blah, 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 blah. It's just like, none of these things are perfect. I don't know. Now, not to take up the entire episode with all this, because I could go on and on and on, as y'all know. Let's move on to something was crazy in a different way. We'll start with the happier one. Dick Van Dyke. He saw 100 years old. He made it to his actual birthday, because so many folks remember what went down with Miss Betty White, R.I.P., because she was just a few weeks shy of her 100th and she passed away. That's why I think it's sickening when, and what is the word again? Is it centenarian for someone who is 100 years old? Anytime these folks who are, like in the public figures who are turning 100, they usually do these preemptive celebrations and news articles so that we capture and recognize, hey, you pretty much made it, right? I mean, I'm someone who, anytime I got a birthday coming up, I like months out, I'll be like when I was about to turn 13, I'd be like, I'm turning 13. When I said I was about to turn 25, I'm turning 25. In a few months, I'm going to be 25. Like this whole year, I've been like, and I'm turning 29 this year. I'm almost 30. Like, so effectively, Miss Betty White made it. But again, it means something to have Mr. Dick Van Dyke actually be lucid and like alive and sat up to have saw his 100th birthday. Like, groundbreaking. I remember when they had an article a few weeks ago, I sent it to my folks, and they're like, damn, talk about vitality. My God. I remember even like 5, 10 years ago seeing things of him dancing, like dancing on social media and looking spiffy as fuck. And he's just talking about his personal keys to, staying vibrant and enjoying life in old age. Just shout out to that man. My God, what a privilege to be alive at the same time as people like him. And then the same time with these folks who unfortunately passed away the day after. So Van Dyke was 13th, right? Then on the 14th, I see in the news, the one I saw first was Carlton. He's the one who he was known for these singles, She's a Bad Mamma Jamma, like that one. And then what's the other one? Oh Lord. The Everlasting Love. Do 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 do. That one. Um in addition to many other things, but those are the ones that I and most other people first think of. So he passes away. His one I remember reading was of stroke complication. He was 72. And then I see shortly after, I see Rob Reiner passes away at like 80. And I'm like, didn't two people? What happened? And unfortunately, Rob Reiners is crazy. I need to actually go back and do some further reading about it because Rob Reiners was him and his wife, and it seems to be foul play, murder. And I think I saw that they had taken in their son as a suspect. I got no idea if like the son is actually like a viable, like he did something, or I mean, I know anytime like something like that happens, they're going to question the people who's very close to them immediately. But I don't know anything about like the relationship to the son, if something happened, if the son has issues, what. I got to look it up. But just isn't life crazy? One day we see one of these legends turns 100. Then the very next day, two legends pass away in a way that I think is untimely. I know you might be like, oh, 72 is old. 72 is like not that old, 80, I know you're older, but still, Rob Reiner, I'm like, I always see him. He's just always been around. He's another one who I remember he was on Hannah Montana. Obviously he's Spinal Tap fame. And also because I grew up with freaking Gen X boomer cusper parents, I watched All in the Family. So I seen him when he was in his All in the Family days in reruns. So just, Rob Reiner, and please don't, I hope this isn't ignorant. He's Jewish, right? I know when somebody's Jewish, you're supposed to say not RIP, but may their memory be a blessing. Just, we hope people are people need to have justice, people need to be at peace, people need to have their memories honored, and we got to give people their flowers while they're here, And on that note, someone did get their flowers. One of my siblings just received his diploma. His conferral for his associate's degree was beginning of November, but he just got his diploma this past few days. I finally got a chance to see it. I was bawling. I am so immensely proud of him. And that makes 2 out of 4 sibling unit college graduates. It's just up to me and my sister to complete it, and then all 4 of us will be college graduates together. Lord. Wow. I guess that moves into kind of like just like Xmas prep. That's where I'm at. Like I've been sat in the car having finished my Xmas shopping officially and just trying to warm up a little bit and head back home. My dad went back to Niger. He went back to Nigeria for Christmas. I gotta make him watch Obafemi WWE clips. Just Christmas. I saw a really funny thing on Tumblr where someone likened Christmas music, the way that we do it, especially in the West, especially in America, like in like retail settings and everywhere, it's like Kids Bop. And it's like me and my crunchy granola Christian self. I mean, I grew up liking Christmas music as a kid. I used to really get into things like um, W3.9 WLIT in Chicagoland here. They have this whole gimmick where starting in November, they just play nothing but fucking Christmas music till about New Year's time. And it used to be my favorite shit. But as I've gotten older, I've sympathized more and more with my mom not wanting to hear that. I don't indulge. I got my little, it's basically Peanuts Christmas and like Phil Spector ass Christmas stuff. That's my shit, right? But like, again, it's like Kids Bop because people who are not, into Christmas, who are not religious, and who just don't like that shit are like, why are we listening to these dinky covers of like the same 20 to 45 songs for weeks on end, no matter what, especially in retail? So just Christian hegemony, Lord. That's why, as a crunchy granola Christian, I try to find my pieces of reverence and like I find the camp and I find ways to celebrate it that feels authentic and sacred and nice, but that's not being too much of an imposition on other people than it already is, man, because it's unavoidable. My God, Lord. But you can decompress by listening to other things, which leads me to my resource rack for today. Solomonster Sounds Off podcast, which has quickly become my new favorite wrestling podcast. And this is one that's accessible to anyone. So if you're ever like, Nikki, I'm on the periphery of this shit, or I don't really care about it, I only care about it in so much as you care about it, right? I think he's a good entry point because most news that he does cater to geeks, but he introduces everything in such a clear, concise way. He doesn't talk round and round like I can be prone to. He's very eloquent and he's a normal ass dude. In this time when so many people are so reactionary, it's not like he's not sensationalist. He's opinionated, but he's not doing this red pill annoying things. Yeah, he'll say things that are quote unquote off color sometimes, but it's like the old school definition of PC when PC didn't mean, oh, I hate that you're mentioning racism or misogyny. PC used to mean like, okay, you're acting like Tipper Gore kind of shit, you know? um Basically, like, to contrast against all these other people and I get it, it's the YouTube game, they're trying to get clicks, but sometimes you need something that's just not, I want to hear your opinion on wrestling news and history, but I don't need crazy editing and all this blah. So, how's that for a first episode back? It's time for me to get back on the road and head back to my folks' house. Is I gotta finish wrapping up all these Christmas gifts, gotta finish my finals because I'm finishing up this term this week. And then we hope that everything is on the up and up. I pass and then I move into my final term of undergraduate. Man, I thank y'all for sticking with me through the evolution of this project. There's going to be some changes to the aesthetics and to the production schedule as we move into the new year, but I'm going to keep coming with this stuff because I like being creative and connecting with folks. Thank you for listening.